My name is Ryan, and I drive for a delivery app in a small town outside Ohio. This happened 3 weeks ago, and I still can't sleep with the lights off. It was almost midnight when the app pinged me with an order. One item, a single bottle of water, delivery address, a house at the very end of Miller Road, a street I had never driven down before, even though I had lived in this town my whole life. The GPS took me somewhere strange. The road turned to gravel, then to dirt. The houses got further and further apart, until there were no houses at all, just trees on both sides. My phone signal dropped to 1 bar. I almost turned around, but the app said I had already been paid, and the tip was $50 for a bottle of water. Finally, the GPS pin landed on a house with no lights on. No porch light, no windows lit, nothing. Just a shape against the dark sky. I got out, walked up with a water bottle, and knocked. The door opened before my knuckles even touched the wood. There was no one behind it, just a hallway, and at the very end of that hallway, a kitchen light was on. A voice called out, calm and pleasant, like an old friend. "Just leave it inside the door, sweetheart. I can't walk right now." I should have left it on the porch and driven away. Instead, I stepped inside. I don't know why. I've asked myself that question every night since. I set the bottle down just inside the door. That's when I saw it on the wall beside me, at eye level. A photograph of me, standing in my own driveway, taken from across the street like someone had been watching my house for weeks. I ran back to my car so fast I left the door of the house wide open. As I pulled away, I looked in my rearview mirror, and the porch light turned on. Standing in the doorway was a figure, too tall, watching my car disappear down the dirt road. I deleted the app that night. 2 days later, I checked my delivery history to see if I could report the address. The order was gone, completely erased, as if it had never existed. There was no record of me ever driving to Miller Road. I looked up Miller Road on a map recently. It doesn't exist. Not on any county record, not on any GPS. I drove down it once, and I have never been able to find it again. Jake worked the night cleaning shift at an office building in downtown Chicago, a 22-story tower that emptied out completely after 9 p.m. He had worked there for 2 years and knew every hallway, every broom closet, every quirk of the old elevators, except one. The building's directory skipped straight from floor 12 to floor 14. Officially, there was no 13th floor. Jake had always assumed it was just superstition, a marketing decision from whenever the building was built, and never thought about it again. One night, the elevator he was riding stopped between floors 12 and 14. The doors opened onto a floor that should not have existed. Dim emergency lighting. Rows of empty cubicles, thick with dust. Phones sitting untouched. Calendars still turned to a date 15 years in the past. Jake should have pressed the button and let the doors close. Instead, curiosity got the better of him, and he stepped out. The air was cold, colder than it had any right to be inside a heated building. He walked past the abandoned desks, and that's when he noticed the security camera in the corner of the ceiling, its red light blinking steadily, following his movement as he passed beneath it. At the far end of the floor, a single office had its light on, glowing under the closed door. Jake heard typing coming from inside, fast and rhythmic, like someone working late on a deadline that had been due for over a decade. He backed away toward the elevator, and the typing stopped instantly. A voice from behind the office door called out, calm and almost bored, "You're not supposed to be here yet." Jake ran. The elevator doors were still open, exactly as he'd left them, and he threw himself inside and slammed the button for the lobby. As the doors closed, he saw the office door open down the long hallway, but nothing came out. Just darkness where a person should have been standing. The next day, Jake reported it to building management, half expecting to be laughed at. Instead, the manager went pale and told him that floor 13 had been sealed off since a fire, decades before the current owners took over. There was no working elevator access to that floor. The buttons inside the elevator only went from 12 to 14. There had never been a 13 button installed. Jake quit 2 days later. He still works nights, but never again in a building with an elevator. And he never rides one alone. When Marcus and his wife bought their first home in rural Pennsylvania, the price seemed too good to be true. The realtor mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that the previous family had moved out quickly. Marcus didn't think much of it. 3 nights after moving in, Marcus woke at exactly 3:17 a.m. to the sound of footsteps in the hallway, slow and deliberate, along with a faint sound, like someone counting under their breath. 1, 2, 3. He checked the hallway. Empty. He checked on his wife, sound asleep beside him. The counting continued for 6 nights, always at 3:17, always reaching a slightly higher number before stopping. On the 7th night, it reached the number 9, and then a voice, dry and rasping, added one final word after the count. "Found you." The footsteps stopped directly outside their bedroom door. The doorknob turned, slowly, all the way to one side. It did not open. The next morning, Marcus researched the house's history at the local records office. 9 previous owners in the last 30 years. Every single one had moved out within their first 2 months of living there. The 9th family, the one directly before Marcus, had left in the middle of the night without taking a single piece of furniture. Marcus and his wife left the following week, same as all the others. He still doesn't know what the counting means, or what happens if it ever reaches 10. He has no plans to find out, and neither does anyone else who has ever lived in that house.